Oh, hey guys, I didn't know you were there. Welcome to West Side Kitchen. Today or tonight we're going to be making chicken piccata, which is my family's favorite. So I'll show you how I make it. So when I marinate my chicken, I also like to marinate or add the seasonings that I added to my chicken into my dredge, which is the flour, egg, and the panko. So I have the ingredients here. So I use granulated garlic. I put a little bit into the flour, a little bit into the egg, and just a little bit as well into the panko crust. Then I have Italian seasoning. Same thing, just a little bit in each, just to give each layer of flavor. Because the worst thing is when you're eating something and the breading's really good, but the chicken and everything is not that great. And it's very flavorful. All right, and then I have Montreal chicken seasoning that I use because we're doing chicken piccata. So you do a little bit of that as well in each. And then always add salt. Don't be afraid of salt, please. You can always add it later, but it's good to add it a little bit at a time. Okay, now I have pepper. Again, you want to just put a little bit in each layer of your breading. Now, I have a little bit of Worcestershire sauce that I did put in the chicken for it marinating, so I'm going to just put it in with the eggs since it's wet. So probably about a tablespoon or two of that. Okay, and whisk this together.
In the next few clips, you're going to see us preparing the parsley, the garlic, the shallot, and lastly, the chicken. You'll see my wife has marinated that chicken, tossed it, and then put it in the bag so we can chill it and refrigerate it for an hour or two.
So what you do is you take the chicken, you put it in the flour first, and you shake off the excess flour because you don't want too much of it because it'll get cakey. Also, rule of thumb, always use one hand because if you use two, it's just gonna get all cakey and stuff. So always use one hand, okay? So you put in the flour first, then you put it right into the egg wash. Here, right into the panko crusting. It's the best part. So our next step is to put it in a shallow frying pan. So you have a cast iron pan that we have here. You probably have about an inch and a half of oil. If you add too much oil, it's gonna spill over and it's gonna catch a fire. So the worst thing to do is to have that. So you have an inch and a half of oil, and if you don't know if it's hot enough, you can always take the back of a wooden spoon, like the bottom of it, and you see how it has a sizzle right there? That's when you know that it's ready. So there you go. That's another little tip. Okay, so what you do is you take a piece of your chicken, and what you do is you put it in, and then you move it away from you so it doesn't splash. See how it's nice and sizzled? Same thing. Put the chicken in.
And always remember, just like my wife said, when you're testing the heat of the oil with the wooden spoon, as you add your protein like chicken or whatever to it, your temperature is going to drop a little bit. So you don't want to crowd the pan. You want to take your time with this. And again, if you're going to do this for dinner or you're going to do this for entertaining, you can take it in a couple step process. You know, it doesn't all have to be done at the same time. So you can prepare your meals a little bit in advance.
Yes.
To make the party.
But you want it to be even. See how beautiful that is? So then you can turn that one over now. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the chicken that was fried onto a rack. You want to put it on a rack and not directly on parchment paper or paper towels because it'll absorb it and then it'll steam and then it'll get soggy. So when you have it on a rack, the air will go through it so it will not, so the bottom of it will stay crispy. That's important. Now that all the chicken has been cooked or fried, we're going to put it in the oven until it reaches 165 degrees. Okay, so now that the chicken has been cooked off, we have it in the oven on 350 degrees until it reaches 165 degrees temperature. So we're going to use the same exact pan. So we have fresh chopped garlic. We're going to put in the pan first. Then we have chopped shallots. So it has a garlic and onion flavor, so it's in the onion family and the garlic family. So it brings a really nice flavor. It's really an understated type of a vegetable.
Shut that fan off, right?
So what this is doing is getting all the flavors from the bottom of the pan to go into the sauce. You just cook it for a couple minutes, so it doesn't look that pretty right now, but trust me, it's going to be beautiful at the end. So you just cook that for a couple minutes. My favorite part is the wine. So I add a little bit of white wine to deglaze the pan. So not only did I take all the flavors off of the bottom of the pan, I'm also adding a liquid so that it all comes together. And it makes a really nice sauce. Plus you're cooking out some of the alcohol and it still is going to have that flavor. I use a Sauvignon Blanc. I found that if you use a Pinot Grigio, it's a little bit too sweet. And if you use a Chardonnay, it's a little bit too oaky. So it might actually make the flavor a little bit off-putting. So I use a Sauvignon Blanc, which is in between flavors. And while that's cooking down, then I will add in the chicken stock, the chicken broth. So we're just getting the pasta ready. The type of pasta we're using is a fresh pasta. We did not make it, but it's easy to buy from the store. So this is the kind of pasta we have. I got a fettuccine. This is probably the best kind you can have since it's thick. You also want it to absorb that sauce as well. If you use anything thinner, it might not work out as well. So you want to use something a little bit thicker, and it also looks really nice. So if you know how to make pasta, awesome. If not, buy fresh pasta. It's actually pretty cheap. It was like 2 packages for less than $5. Oh, you're still there? Are you cool cats and kittens? Okay, so now that some of the white wine has reduced down a little bit, as you can see, it's getting a little bit thicker. So you still want to keep some of the sauce in there, but you also want it to kind of thicken up so all that shallots and garlic have absorbed that wine flavor. Now we're going to add in the chicken stock. This is going to help make the sauce. And also the capers, again with the brine. Sometimes people like the brine, some people don't. I think it's really, really, really good. You can chop up the capers if you'd like to. I like to keep them whole. So I'm going to dump them in there. And same thing like the wine, I'm going to let this reduce down just a little bit before I add my butter. And the butter is going to make it nice and thick. Okay, so now that the piccata sauce has started to reduce, it also is getting a little bit salty from the brine. So when you add any sort of a citrus like a lemon or a lime, it's going to tend to bring out more of the salt, enhance the flavors that you have in any of the sauces or things that you have. So I haven't added any salt or pepper yet because I want to make sure that I have that very briny, lemony flavor first and see how salty it is. Sometimes I don't have to add salt at all. So I'm going to. And the best part of cooking is that people always forget. Always taste your food. It doesn't matter what stage it's in, as long as it's not like raw. Always so. I always have some spoons on hand or whatever you have in hand. Grab a spoon and always taste just a little bit, just to see where you're at. Throw the spoon away if it's something you can throw out. So I feel that this sauce actually does not need any more salt right now, but I'm going to add some black pepper. If you have white pepper, I love white pepper, but use a lot less. It's more potent. So I'm going to use a little bit of black pepper. Just stir it around a little bit. Okay, again, I'm going to take another spoon. I'm going to taste it. Perfect, doesn't need any more pepper. So at this point, it doesn't even need any more lemons. So I'll put this aside. So done with that. Let it reduce just a little bit more. Okay, so now that the water is boiling, I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Since you're using a fresh pasta, it takes a lot less time. Usually takes 6, 7 to 8 minutes for regular dried pasta. Since this is a fresh pasta, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes. If you're going to add a pasta to a sauce like this, always cook it a little bit less, like a minute less, because it's going to continue to cook. So you just put the fresh pasta, as I have here, fettuccine, put in here. Give it a little bit of a stir. Start the timer, 2 minutes. All right, you can turn it on. Yes. Okay, now that the sauce has been to a reduction amount that I like, I'm going to add in the parsley. Doesn't matter how much, but I like to use flat leaf parsley. I feel like flat leaf parsley has a better flavor to me than curly parsley, and it's also really nice as a presentation. So I'm going to add in the parsley. Decent amount. Just stir it up. So you're going to turn off the heat because you also don't want to have the parsley turn brown. Okay, now the pasta's ready. Now, what's going to be next is the butter. I cut them up in pieces because you're supposed to use cold butter when you're doing any sort of thickening. If you use a melted butter, it's going to melt, it's going to break right away. So you're going to add a little bit at a time. So put on my whisk, and again, I turn the heat off. So if you keep it on, it's going to break. So you just continue this until you actually like the consistency of it. I like a really thicker sauce, per se. Sauce not look pretty. So a good thing, actually, what I found out when I was in culinary school, is that when you're cooking, you can always add fat back in there to actually get it to not break again. So if I see that my sauce is broken, like right now it's not, it's actually coming together, it's getting a little bit thicker, I can always add more fat and it will actually bring it back together. That's the best thing about cooking that I find. You can't really do that in baking. So again, you want to just kind of add a little bit at a time. I probably add a lot of it at a time. But you're going to continue to whisk it around. And don't use metal on metal, please. This is a silicone whisk. So just kind of go around while it melts. So because you don't want it to, again, break or separate. Because then it doesn't look nice. And then it doesn't taste collective. So you kind of want it to get a little bit thick as it goes. Me particularly, I like to add my pasta to my sauces because I like it to absorb the flavors. Add it to your sauce. You want to mix it up so it gets all incorporated into the sauce. I feel like that's the best part. And then the best part about it, see how beautiful that looks? All the capers and the green colors. And all you gotta do is just dress the plate. Add a little bit more parsley, so it looks beautiful. All right, and there you have it. This is my chicken piccata dish that I make a lot. It looks really fancy, but you can make something that's very comforting and make it really beautiful. If you want to add a little bit of the lemon zest at the end, you can. And that's what I'm going to do.